I'm gonna get a lot of things wrong, like I've tried to look at like longer term trends, and then my whole thing is just like take things for their logical conclusion and like try to empathize with the people who are making these decisions. Like all this baking stuff that's happening in the US and other markets, like puts you in the shoes of a politician, right? You want to get reelected. What do you need to do? Get reelected. Give out free, right? Free costs money. What do you do when you can't afford stuff? Print it, right? It's just standard. And if you study enough history, you see that nothing that's happening today with how the ruling empires of the world are debasing their currencies, it's all happened before. It's slightly different, and the circumstances might, be a bit different, but this is the play that we've been running over and over and over and over again. And so if you read enough history, like, okay, I can see what they're doing. I see the motivations. I can see how this ends. And thankfully now we have something like Bitcoin and this whole ecosystem where we can actually take our money out of that system and say, okay, yes, this is risky, it's volatile, it's whatever, but I'm solving for this risk that happens in every single large civilization over time, and maybe I'm going to be better off for taking this decision. Alpha Hayes believes that if you zoom out and take long-term trends to their logical conclusions, there is one inevitable outcome that shows that Bitcoin and crypto is your only hope. For those that don't know, Arthur Hayes is a crypto veteran who founded and is a former CEO of BitMES. Arthur Hayes became one of the youngest billionaires in the crypto space, and he would be one of the most knowledgeable people on financial markets, cryptocurrency, and the macroeconomic cycles in the world. In his latest interview with What Bitcoin Did, he breaks down the excessive debt problem the globe is facing and the potential consequences of continued money printing by governments. Arthur argues that governments tend to resort to printing money as a solution to the debt problem, which leads to inflation and can ultimately result in unsustainable collapse. He points out that this cycle has occurred over and over again throughout history, and it's not a sustainable solution in the long term. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video, where Arthur breaks down why he believes that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only life raft, and although it's a volatile ride in the short term, on a long enough time span, it is inevitable. Also, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing and liking the video. It's free, and you can always change your mind. I don't care if you're a democracy, yet fascism, communism. Every single large nation state has the same construct of their banking system to a large degree. Everybody has the same problem. US has too much debt, China has too much debt, Japan has too much debt, and Europe has too much debt. Every major country has, we've decided that we want to have fewer kids because we like living in cities and doing whatever. We don't live on farms, right? And so you have less people working. So if you have fewer humans consuming things but you pile on a budget in the last 50 years, there are just not enough people to pay for it. And so what do? You print the difference. No, or you could say yes. Some strong politician could stand up, say, you know what, everybody, I'm sorry, but your uncles and your fathers, they've took out all this debt, and unfortunately, they had a good time. But now we're going to have to make some changes. And that Social Security, you're not getting that. That free college education, sorry, I can't afford that anymore. That's not the message that gets you elected. They're never going to do those, never. They tried that in the UK. We went through this austerity period in the UK that a lot of the Conservatives tried it for about 2 years, and everyone hated them. Everyone hated it. But the flip side, yeah, we had them. He was the Labour guy, Corbyn. Yeah, he tried to print. He tried to offer loads of stuff for free, and nobody believed him. You can push it too far for sure. No one believed him because he was saying, I'm going to give you this for free, and that for free, and this for free. And he still didn't get elected. So push it too far. But if you're studying history and you're saying, this has all happened before, doesn't now feel particularly bad, like one of the worst situations. Yeah, if you 5,000 years of interest rate history we've had, was it at the peak, in Children 21, of the $18 trillion of negatively yielding debt? Thank you. That's means you've inverted time, right? It's what? You're telling me these economists, if I got out of the way to invert time, and we're going to go against the natural order of things and physics doesn't apply. Okay, sure. It's just obvious what's going to happen on a long enough time frame, right? The short-term market moves can cut you off guard, and if you're using too much leverage, your position sizing is wrong. Then yes, you're going to have to be staring at your phone, babysitting your Bitcoin, and making sure that you're reading the tea leaves correctly, but taking a longer-term, higher-level view. I think the path is clear. Now, whether or not Bitcoin or some of these other cryptos perform in that scenario is yet to be seen. However, the end game, we know what's going to happen, which is extreme money. But yeah, do you think they print to the point of being unsustainable and collapse? I would say probably okay, because we've had a 2008 crisis, right? What was that? 850 billion? There were however many, and then trillions left, after that, right? Has anyone learned any lessons? COVID hits, what happens? Governments print a bunch of money. This is the banks buy it, Fed being the most egregious of all of them in terms of money printing, and now they've exacerbated the problems. They all know they have it. It's not like these guys are dumb, right? Very smart people they've talked about in many papers. We know that we have this problem in the future. If we print all this money, how do we take it out of the system without causing, bad effects? Now they think they're super smart and they can figure it out, and they're going to have enough time to do it. So it's like a lot of people who know they have a problem. They know they got to fix it eventually, but they think they're so smart that they can time the market, and the market's not going to inflict pain on them. And the market's going to only act in a very linear fashion. It's not going to throw a curveball like, all the regional banks failing, or, something else like somebody starts a war somewhere and the price of oil goes up, right? And then you have energy inflation, which completely screws up everything, right? So there are a lot of people who know they have a problem, but they think they're smart enough to solve it. I think look at it more like cycles, okay? So I think the cycle is we got this having next year, 2024. I think that's going to be a good year. I don't think we get up to 70,000 this year. I think, next year is when, we cross that barrier, and then we get the blow off top, 2025, 2026, and then it's Armageddon. Armageddon is that Armageddon everywhere or in Bitcoin. I think it's more of a societal Armageddon. No, I'm sure Bitcoin will go down too, but it's more like, do we have a major war? Do we have, when you have all these print all this money and have all this social discontent around the world, you get things that happen. And it might not be the thing we all think is going to happen. It's, World War I was started by the assassination of some random minor royal, right? So, and then that everybody's treaties triggered and boom, millions of, young men died around the world. So it doesn't necessarily have to be super straightforward. It's just we have this situation. We have this tinderbox of too much money, no trust, and people trying to eke out a living for them. And again, that's the point I always make. Most people will not buy Bitcoin, period. They will go down with the sinking ship. That doesn't mean the price doesn't go up fantastically, right? It's a small door, a lot of money. I mean, what's global MTU? Hundreds of trillions, right of debt in the world. Bitcoin is worth what? 400 or 500 billion, or whatever it is at the current market cap. Not all. Now, when everyone gets saved, not everybody makes it into Noah's Ark. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to drown. Well, what? It's so this is, back in Roman times and in Greece. I don't know if he was was it Sullen? That jubilee, it's a very common feature in a lot of large civilizations. You have a period of excess build-up, and then there's a leader who comes and essentially expunges debt. Right now, rich people hate this, of course, right? They hate it when, I lend money to all these plebs, and here's this guy. I thought he was one of us, and he's coming in here and say, well, if we want a right society and actually have, a productive, cohesive society, we need to relieve the debt burden of those who are less fortunate. And they would do it that jubilee. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these leaders get assassinated by their peers because those in charge don't like it when the money that they've lent out does not earn an interest rate. So that jubilee, student loan debt forgiveness, mortgages forgiveness, writes it all off. Again, that's going to have to write off the debts. It's going to get paid anyways, right? It's a political decision. So the people in charge politically have to decide who pays the loss. There's a loss there. They're not going to get away from it. Somebody's got to pay it. And so depending on the particular political structure you get, maybe you're going to get some strong leader who's going to come in and say, we're going to disadvantage people who have a lot of money versus people who don't, and we're going to expunge that. Is that, I know, theoretically it's possible, but is it actually possible? Of course it's possible. They could actually implement that if we write it laws against replay, or things written down a piece of paper by humans. So if we all decide today that the law has this, then the law is this. If we decide to write laws that the law is that, right? There's no reason why we can't do it. It's literally a political, obviously we've progressed as societies over time. It's just everything is very path dependent, right? Being born, in, 19 whatever, and you had to serve in World War in whatever country you're from, that kind of sucked. Being born in 1955, 1916, being part of the richest generation in human history, the baby boomers kind of, right? Being born in the 1990s and 2000s maybe might kind of suck, you know? So there's Arthur Hayes on the debt crisis and the potential ramifications of continuous money printing by governments. As he points out, every major nation in the world is grappling with soaring debt levels, which, as we have seen throughout history, cannot be sustained on a long enough time span. Arthur's solution is for investors to diversify their assets into investments outside the traditional financial system. He believes Bitcoin and Ethereum are one option, but other tangible assets such as gold, property, or unleveraged cash flow generating businesses could be viable options. He urges investors to take action now rather than waiting for the situation to worsen to safeguard one's financial future. But what do you guys think? Do you think a debt jubilee is even possible in modern day? Is Bitcoin and crypto the solution to the debt crisis? Let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always,